It's way too much damage. Stop him with the block! He fell charged.
And he found
wow.
Wow.
Oh, what?
He gets out!
Somewhere there's a covert muffin just applauding this seed.
Holy crap.
Oh man, this is gonna come down to execution in the final escape, isn't it?
Sure is.
Every seed
Our
does.
favorite phrase.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 2021 Ori and the Blind Forest Randomizer Tournament. You try to say that 10 times fast, it gets kind of tricky. This next match we have coming up is between Seed 32 Trojan versus Seed number 1 Tritonite. On commentary, my name is Grimelios, and I'm joined by Turtle. Hey Turtle.
Hey Grim, we have a great match for you today. As you said, Seed 1 versus Seed 32, typically something you'd see at the very beginning of a tournament, but now we are seeing it come in the lower brackets. Meaning this is going to be a very, very tense match for both of our runners here today.
Yeah, both runners have taken kind of unusual routes to get here. Like you said, this isn't a matchup that we would have necessarily expected to see, especially not in the lower bracket, specifically because of Tritonite's seed. What happened is that Tritonite took a very unexpected loss early, which sent him down to the lower bracket, and has since just been absolutely decimating opponents and has not lost yet, because if he did, of course, he would be out of the tournament, as the loser of this race today will be out of the tournament. What about Trojan's path to get here?
Yeah, Trojan's first match was actually against me, where he took me out, because again, he's pretty competent as a runner, and he actually made it pretty far up through the upper bracket until losing to Guard just recently, and this is his first match now in the lower bracket, coming up against a very scary opponent.
Yeah, to call Tritonite scary is certainly accurate, although Trojan, despite Seed 32 being on the lower end, is no one to scoff at. Trojan has been someone who's been playing Ori for many years. He's one of the earliest Ori community members. Has kind of a reputation, or at least had a reputation, for playing quite thorough in randomizer seeds, which can pay off or it can lose you a lot of time. It remains to be seen what this seed will throw at these runners.
Yeah, we've seen Trito before just zip through seeds, although after his loss, maybe thinking a little bit more about just trying to check things, although he still probably will not go sense, as in his loss, that pickup, or that check sense, trolled him quite a lot, and it was a little bit...
To say that it trolled him is very true, and also an understatement. I've never seen anyone be trolled by sense so badly in all my life.
Yeah, that was certainly a race to watch, absolutely. And so hopefully will this one be, as our runners are looking to start pretty quickly here. And as they start, Grim, we have to always ask, what do you think our runner's first pickup might be?
I want early double jump. It doesn't have to be the first pickup, but I want it to be early.
I can agree with that. Double jump is one of my favorite skills in the game, and it's very comfy for our runners. I think something else that'll be really comfy for them is the other form of air stall, Glide. If they get Glide and Wind Restored, that opens up just a handful of pickups on the right side, but it's really, really convenient, and that's what I'd like to see, personally.
Sorry, that seed was called Leaf Worthless Twillin. Kind of made me laugh.
Aw, Twillin's not worthless. Well,
no, he's not.
Will the Wisps, he's not.
Just made me laugh. Anyway, on the left we have Trojan, on the right, Trito. As always, the start of the seed is pretty limited. There's very little you could do unless you happen to get a power skill early. 44 XP is not a power skill. It is enough to level up. So we'll see both runners pausing to blow up their brambles. Good awareness to do that.
Yep, that will absolutely save them time. With maybe the exception if they find Grenade, that also is a way to basically instantly blow up those brambles. But the odds of Grenade showing up are, what, 4 in 256 out of these very early pickups? So
it's a small number.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like we will probably be having a 2 keystone start, leading our runners through to the wall jump tree. Though, that could still change. Seed-Gen likes to be a troll sometimes, might still give our runners something like Climb to go into Blackroot, and not a second keystone. But for now, they will just pick up Sign, a pickup that's placed here just to make life a lot easier. It's hard to progress through the seed when you can't attack anything. And they will head to those last 2 checks in logic. We will see if it's a keystone, a skill, or possibly something else.
Yeah, something I'll be very curious to see in the opening minutes and throughout the whole race is whether there is a strong execution advantage to Tritonite. As I said, Tritonite's our #1 seed, a very formidable player, but Trojan has a lot of Ori experience as well. We do get Climb, so we might be heading into Black Roots. But yeah, something I'll be curious to see is how thorough Tritonite decides to be, generally speaking, knowing that he's facing an opponent who is a much lower seed.
Yep. And we do see a second keystone now. Both runners decide to drop a save right in front of this door, check this pickup underwater, and then once they die, that save that they put in front of the door helps them skip the little animation of the door opening. And so though both of our runners now can go into Blackroot, we are seeing both of them take this route through towards the wall jump tree. And I like this. Climb only Blackroot is not fun. And so our runners are absolutely justified in looking for anything.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. With that mega health, 7 health is enough to make it down to this pickup. This is kind of a famous pickup. Trojan in a previous tournament found a very important pickup here. I wish I remember what it was. It's the fish, and, well, he wasn't rewarded, just XP, but I really like that play. I'm actually surprised that Tritonite didn't make it. It's certainly out of sequence, but with that mega health, smart play by Trojan.
Yeah, the interesting things that our runners both will know how to do to break out of logic will definitely be able to possibly get them an advantage. Depends on where things are. So that if that was something like Bash, Trojan would have had a huge advantage. But for now, that is just some XP, and our runners will be looking for out of sequence pickups later on that will get them that huge advantage that they both really want over the other.
Yeah, nothing too exciting so far. Tritonite has 3 keystones, which is enough to head into Spirit Caverns, although Tritonite will very likely altar after this tree and the energy cell to head to Blackroot. Many of these openings tend to be relatively static in terms of your options. Like at the start, there was an option to head into Glades first or to go to Blackroot, as you mentioned, but going Glades is pretty clearly the better choice, which is why we saw both runners make it. Tritonite also picked up the Valley Teleporter, by the way, so that's left side access.
Well, left side access with a couple of other skills to get past a kill plane and up the area. But it's very nice to have, even this early, as it's just a weight off your mind, knowing that, okay, you don't really need that much in order to get onto left side, which in some seeds can be very, very restricted. So our runners will be glad to get that, as Trojan Dude is now also making his way down towards the wall jump tree, where he will find that for himself.
Yeah, we are seeing a bit of a lead forming for Tritonite. A large chunk of that is because Trojan decided to double back with his Mega Health to check that long Glades swimming pickup, and Tritonite didn't. But even apart from that, I think Tritonite's execution has been a little bit cleaner. Not a lot cleaner, but cleaner.
Yeah, he didn't get the #1 seed for nothing. He won 5 races in a row, if I remember correctly, in the preliminaries, which is kind of insane, considering how tough the competition all over the seed has been, just to show off how skilled Tritonite is. But that doesn't mean that Trojan is down and out yet. We will see him, if he can find one of those very busted power skills in a place where Triton doesn't. That'll be very interesting to see how the race turns out, if that is the case.
Yeah, one very minor thing, and thanks to Romulus for pointing this out, Tritonite decided to get the Magnet ability first, which causes experience and health and such to magnet towards Ori's position. That's especially useful in Blackroots, because these slimes drop a reasonable amount of experience in the early game, and since these runners are currently so energy-starved, it's nice to have that. It's a very minor choice that Tritonite made to go for Magnet rather than Rekindle, but it shows, I think, some awareness of the situation that he's in right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and that will also let him level up more for more ability points, as there are quite a few cutscenes that our runners will definitely want to skip in Blackroot. They've already skipped the first, and they can do another one at the dash tree, and if they decide to find a micro ledge or use a climb ramp, there's a third one that they'll want to skip in the Indiana Jones boulder section. And so Trito already does have enough ability points for that, thanks to all of those EXP pickups and Magnet getting him some more.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the ability points, because Trojan has 1 fewer ability point right now than Tritonite, and the reason is that when Trojan doubled back to check the Glades long swim, he had to spend an ability point to save his game because he didn't have Rekindle yet. That may come back to bite Trojan, it might not. It depends how much experience and or ability points exist within these next few pickups that we will end up seeing Tritonite check first.
Yeah, ability point routing is always something very, very interesting to see in any runner, as it's a limited resource. Well, technically limited. You could farm infinite amounts of it if you wanted to, but that takes quite a while. And there are different ways to use it, as in skipping cutscenes, doing zombies, and even how you use it in which tree, the purple or the blue-green tree, can be huge in determining the outcome of a race.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the right side right now. We have to be... Well, there doesn't have to be progression here because we have some stuff available in Spirit Caverns. But I'm curious what we'll see. Tritonite checked the mid-Blackroots ability cell, and it was just experience, is now going to head down. Checking this pickup with climb only, this boulder experience, is not in logic because it requires a micro ledge. Now, Tritonite's going to do it anyway. I would imagine Trojan probably will as well. But if progression isn't down here, then... Well, I think progression has to be in Spirit Caverns. We might get different progression down here, but logical progression, I think, has to be Spirit Caverns.
Yes, indeed. And even though this is out of
somewhere
logic...
past Spirit Caverns. Sorry.
And even out of logic, this is still a great area for our runners to go to, as it contains the teleporter for Blackroot Burrows, somewhere they will need to return later to get the grenade tree down here. So just grabbing this teleporter early on is a pretty huge advantage if our runners do know this micro ledge, as we've seen Trito already get through it, and we'll see if Trojan knows it as well, and decides to head down, grab this teleporter, and have a very fast trip to grenade later on.
Yeah, something I want to point out, I mentioned a moment ago that Trojan might end up struggling with ability points. Thankfully, there was 290, maybe 291 experience past the Crutchers, which indicates that Dash may be relatively buried. We actually saw Tritonite circle that XP when he picked up that mapstone. We'll have to see how that comes into play. Tritonite down in the boulder area also picked up a very valuable, what is that, third energy? Second and third energy? Just second, some amount of energy that's greater than one.
Yep, having an energy starved seed can be absolutely brutal, not being able to save very often, as well as if you get something like Charge Flame or Charge Dash, not being able to use those as much as you'd like to. So just having that energy is super helpful. And of course, the energy doors that our runners will both be attempting to get through at some point, probably, usually require 4, and Trito is now decently on his way to that number, as he has 3, and with an energy glitch could even get through a 4 energy door.
I want to point out, Trojan almost died. Trojan was at 1 health and had to dodge those slimes, which are notoriously finicky to dodge their projectiles sometimes. At this point, I would encourage paying attention to the right side yet again. Well, there's Charge Flame. That's some sort of progression. Charge Flame is going to get us access to the Charge Flame tree, although at this point I would be very surprised if Tritonite did not continue all the way through the Spirit Caverns, since even with Charge Flame, that only opens up just a few pickups. Really just one that you couldn't... Well, no, Valley entry. Just a few pickups. Nice micro ledge again.
Yeah, micro ledges are very weird and finicky, and we are seeing our runners, Tritonite especially, just find them instantly. Having only climb can just make those wall jump intended areas a little weird, but if you know where the micro ledges are, they're basically free, as we've seen Trito just blazing through some of them, and it looks like he will indeed be headed to Valley Entry, using that Charge Flame to check at least one pickup onto the stomp floor here, possibly another that's really obnoxious to get up to, but it is possible, if I remember correctly.
Well, we often talk about what is possible in Ori compared to what is, strictly easy or kind of intuitive to do. Tritonite, being the number 1 seed, is going to be someone who is aware of pretty much everything and probably practiced in it too. Tritonite did decide to skip that upper plant. I'm not sure if he can actually get to it with just climb. Tritonite may know the answer for sure. I don't. But with that, Tritonite is heading over to the Charge Flame tree, which is going to get a handful of extra pickups, but also is going to get us our first clue for keys.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen nothing as of yet for either the Water Vein or the Sunstone. So this clue, yeah, the Sunstone will end up being in Sorrow. That's great to know for our runners, as they need both the Sunstone and the Water Vein to complete the seed. And so they will be getting clues for some of the dungeon keys at trees 3, 6, and 9. Just 1 clue each, but for now, that Sunstone clue is good to remember.
There's that progression. Tritonite just found a charge jump at the plant near the Charge Flame area. A charge jump is going to get Tritonite access to the Spider Sack area, and by extension, much greater access to the right side of the map. charge jump in combination with climb also acts as a pseudo stomp replacement in many circumstances. So it's a very powerful find. It's not a competitive advantage because Trojan will definitely find it. That is required progression. But Trite Knight, as before, is, I think, growing his lead by some amount.
Yep. And with that, our runners have quite a bit of the map open to them. That is blue breakage, wall interaction, and verticality, as well as, like you said, a pseudo stomp if they even wanted to go down to something like lower Blackroot early. So Trito is going to take this play through the pretty dense area of Spider Sack, possibly looking to grab some teleporters on the right side after he does. We'll see what Trojan ends up doing if he picks the same option, or if he decides to go somewhere else, just trying to make a one-off play and find that one pickup that Triton will miss.
Well, Trite Knight checked the progression vault out of sequence by doing an energy glitch, which, as with everything else this seed, Trite Knight got it really, really fast. Sometimes that trick can take a while. Was not rewarded for it. We did get our first map of the seed as well. Importantly with these pickups, even when you don't find something important at areas like the progression vault or that Spirit Cavern's keystone that requires a micro ledge, it's still really great to get it out of the way, because if you don't, that pickup's going to be in the back of your mind for a long time, and you're going to be uncertain about it. So Trite Knight so far, I think, has cleared everything. There is a fourth energy cell.
And while an out of
Proper
logic
one.
fourth energy cell, since two of them were in the boulder area, which is now in logic actually with charge jump. They just got a little bit early, knowing that micro ledge with climb. So 4 energy will let them get into stuff like progression vault, which we saw Trito check earlier with the glitch. Now he doesn't have to use that glitch to check any other 4 energy doors that he might find in his path.
Yeah, Trojan picked up charge jump as well, decided to double back to the left, and found the Grove teleporter. I think that's a pickup that Trite Knight skipped. Trite Knight decided to turn around and head towards Spider Sack instead. Finding the Grove teleporter is not hugely impactful, but it is more valuable than nothing.
Yeah, but I do like this route divergence between our runners. Trito is definitely making the play for his next areas that he needs to go to, grabbing some teleporters and just checking stuff along the way. Meanwhile, Trojan being very, very thorough, saying, hey, I have charge jump. There's stuff I orphaned down here that I can get now. Maybe that'll have something really, really powerful on it that Trito will miss. And if I can get something really, really powerful down here, that'll be a huge advantage for me.
Yeah.
So we are going to see Trojan grab this one pickup down here. And that will be pretty much all of Glades under his belt, except for the stuff that's locked off behind some energy doors.
Yeah, there's something to be said for kind of mentally clearing an area too. I mean, never mind pickup density, which is obviously important. It just means that Trojan, as you said, can't forget about Glades completely, but for now can largely forget about it. Interesting choice by Trite Knight here to go into Swamp before going down to Grotto. I don't say interesting sarcastically. It's a fine choice. It's just Trite Knight had the option to head down towards Grotto, towards the double jump tree, decided to head into Swamp instead, using that climb charge jump as a replacement for Stomp. And Trite Knight does have enough keystones to do it as well. This is interesting. The Stomp tree is one that is frequently put off until relatively late in the seed, but in this seed, Trite Knight's going to clear it very early.
Yep. He does have the energy if he wishes to go through Death Gauntlet as an alternative route to get into Grotto and grab that teleporter. So I wonder if he's thinking about that and just saying, okay, I can grab that teleporter very easily. Let me, while I'm here, grab the Stomp tree, because I can with the skills and keystones that I have.
Wow.
And he will, for his efforts, be rewarded with Clean Water. A pretty nice pickup to have, as it just makes a lot of the areas in the game easier, including the final escape. And also, for his efforts, is rewarded with Spirit Light efficiency, doubling all of his EXP gain throughout this entire seed.
If you're going to find Spirit Light efficiency, the earlier you find it, the better. And with that out of the way, Trite Knight decides to back out. Is going to go open the door before turning around to check that upper pickup. I was going to say there's no way that he actually skips it. I do like this routing by Trite Knight. I mentioned a moment ago that Trite Knight decided to turn around and go into into Swamp before going to Grotto, and this is a good reason why, because afterwards Trite Knight was able to Altar and take this very efficient route through the Death Gauntlet, getting fast access to Grotto while also clearing a bunch of pickups. Meanwhile, Trojan is going to do some additional checks in the Valley entry that Trite Knight was not able to do at the time because he didn't have Charge Jump yet.
Yeah, Trojan is really just being incredibly, incredibly thorough, grabbing every single one-off possible in the areas he's already cleared, just really making sure that he finds everything important. And that's something that might be important there. The Forlorn Teleporter. Forlorn is an area that our runners don't need to go to, but if there ends up being something there, Trojan will have a much easier time of accessing it through the teleporter, whereas Trito will have to either walk down there with the Gumon Seal or find that teleporter himself before he manages to get to that area.
Well, it's interesting. You said that Trojan's being thorough, which is, of course, accurate. I would say Tritonite's being very thorough as well. He hasn't checked every single pickup available, but he's checked most of them so far. Like, at this point, Tritonite could have chosen to just beeline double jump tree, for example, or go to grenade out of sequence. The grenade tree, excuse me. But Tritonite is deciding to take the time to check many of these pickups. And I think that's smart. Even going to go all the way over here to the right and check at least one of these pickups in the early part of Swamp.
Yeah, every runner has their own way of balancing thoroughness versus speed. And so Trito is, yeah, you're right, still being very thorough, just I'd say not as thorough as Trojan, checking every single pickup.
I just want to point out, I'm sorry, that was a brilliant save scum by Tritonite, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Being able to check the stuff in the swamp drain access and then just get out because he didn't find anything useful and he didn't need it. So, yeah, you're right. Very, very good save scum on his part.
Yep, Tritonite, as before, continuing to be thorough on the way down to double jump. Trojan, as before and as you described, Turtle, is continuing to be thorough as well. So far, neither runner has been rewarded with major progression that the other hasn't, except that Tritonite found water and wind, which are not insignificant, but they're not a skill. Clean water is going to be most impactful, probably, for the final escape. And wind is going to be useful to potentially get into Sorrow if we can find that feather.
Yeah, I'd say clean water is actually useful at this point, as we are seeing Trito do some swims to grab pickups. Wind is literally just a background element until you find Glide. If they find Glide, of course, yes, it's a great pickup to have. But Glide could be a lot of different places. And so if Trito doesn't find that, that wind pickup is just a nice decoration to have, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. We see Trojan over on the left checking some of these pickups, which means that Trojan is going to find... is this where that energy cell was? Something was here. Wind Restored, that's where it was. So there we have one of two world events parity between the runners. Tritonite continuing to make short work of this. I don't think I've seen... I'm trying to think if I've seen any major execution mistakes from either runner. Just very minor stuff, like a few seconds here and there, maybe at most. Both runners playing very clean.
Yeah, absolutely. If this race comes down to anything, it certainly doesn't seem to be execution. It will just seem to be the routing decisions that our runners have been making. Just Trojan being more thorough than Triton, Triton being a little more focused on teleporters and trees than Trojan, is all it has turned out to be so far.
Well, I would just say Tritonite's just being thorough in a different direction. For example, right after getting that charge jump pickup around Charge Flame, we saw Trojan Dude turn around and check some of the stuff in Glades, which is a perfectly valid choice. But Tritonite decided to head towards Spider Sack, presumably deciding to be thorough in a direction that also happens to take him closer to teleporters and trees, which I think makes a lot of sense. Neither choice is objectively superior to the other, but it kind of is in line with Tritonite's generally aggressive playstyle, although in this seat he is taking it a little slower. I say slower, I just mean more thorough.
Yep. And with both of our runners checking so many different pickups, we are starting to run out of areas where the next progression might be. With clean water being found by Trito, that is still quite a few checks, especially in Swamp, that he could do. But for now, like you said, he is being thorough in the direction of trees, making sure to go towards double jump, where he might still find something very, very important for his progression, and where Trojan will eventually find something for his progression too, as double jump tree is required, and with how thorough Trojan is being, I would be surprised if he misses anything.
Yeah, Tritonite just got a keystone from the second map. Map stones so far have been quite limited, which may not matter at all. It is possible for dungeon keys to be on maps. It's uncommon, but it's possible. We know the Sunstone isn't, the Water Vein still might be. Tritonite also found an extra double jump, which is useless until you find your first double jump.
And Trito is deciding that violence will be an option today. This mini-boss takes some time, but with his skill of Charge Jump and also Charge Flame, he can make quick work. Yeah, one cycling this boss. Great work from Trito, and to grab this check that some runners skip, but he is deciding to be thorough and check just in case it is something very important. No, it's a troll.
Well, I mean, it's a smart play in a seed like this as well, not just because of the meta play of, you're playing against an opponent who tends to be thorough and has a lower seed than you, which means that you can probably afford the extra time. But because Tritonite has already checked so much without progression that, as you said, the pool of locations where progression could be is relatively low. So suddenly that mini boss turns from 1 in, X pickups to 1 in like 4 or something. It's not literally 4, but there aren't very many left.
Yeah. There will be something somewhere that our runners can use, as the seed will never make an impossible seed. Just sometimes it can take a bit longer than other seeds to find where that one possible progression pickup might be. And in this case, we might see one of those longer pickup chains. As so far, nothing, and Trito is almost down to the double jump tree at this point, leaving not a lot, aside from clean water pickups, in his back pocket to check.
Yeah, there's some other stuff too, like, what am I thinking of? Glazer is actually on the table with that energy. There's a handful of things they're going to check. If I had to guess, Tritonite's going to turn around and head towards the grenade tree. The double jump tree there was tree number 5, which naturally means that the next tree is number 6 and gets us our second clue. That second clue hopefully will be for the water vein, might be for the Gumon seal instead. But yeah, there's just relatively few things available. Tritonite is going to decide to go back into Glades and clear some of these pickups that we already saw Trojan clear. I like this play, especially with clean water.
Water is very, very handy. As we saw Trojan having to do this pickup earlier, requiring 7 health in a very close call with a fish, Trito can do it for free, having that pickup in his back pocket. We'll just grab the experience, decide, oh, it's nothing too important, and we'll go back out to the teleporter. We'll see where he goes from here, as Trojan is looking towards Swamp. We'll see if he actually goes into Swamp proper and grabs his Stomp Tree, which, as we know, has clean water right next to it.
Yeah, Tritonite, I said a moment ago, was going to go clear Glades. Turns out, yeah, as you said, was just going to clear the one pickup. As we've seen multiple times now, making very effective use of save scumming, Tritonite is going to head down. Rather than going straight for the grenade tree, is going to check just a handful of these pickups, maybe just the one. Yeah, because checking those lower pickups is, I don't believe, in standard logic. The laser pickups might be. But in any case, you have to go to the grenade tree. Might as well check there first. Tritonite sitting on 12 ability points can very easily zombie this by spending ability points. I believe actually has enough for ultra defense if he wanted to take it, although, never mind. Did you see what he just found?
Ooh boy, yep, that is Glide, and I was a little critical of the wind pickup earlier, but now that is actually really, really useful, especially with the Valley teleporter in his hands. He can go over there and just fly straight up into Sorrow once that kill plane is cleared, of course.
Yeah, although even without the kill plane, I believe Tritonite can get up there with some damage boosts. This is something that, again, Tritonite with his experience would actually know better than probably either of us on comms. In either case, Tritonite is about to get his second clue, and it is not for the water vein. The Gumon seal is in Valley. That clue is very likely irrelevant to this seed.
Yep,
might be wrong, but it's probably irrelevant.
Of course, the water vein could be in Forlorn, then that would instantly become a very, very relevant pickup. Or if the water vein is on something really awful, like Mapstone 9, that would also require a Forlorn visit, when again, require the Gumon seal. So we will see just what happens to that water vein, as it looks like, yeah, Trito's going to the left side, wants his remaining 3 trees, which will get him his last clue, and tell him where that water vein is. If it's good, if it's bad, if it's really, really bad, water vein Mapstone 9, we'll just have to find out as he does.
I just want to point out, Trojan is actually going to go check a number of these underwater swamp pickups. These are pickups we didn't see Tritonite check. Of course, we know that Glide is closer to the grenade tree, but we might find another skill down here. These things, I believe, are in logic to get at this point. So it's as before, it's a very reasonable play by Trojan. I would say the runners are being thorough in different ways.
Yeah, logic at this point does not include Glide, because you can't get to that area of the grenade tree without getting killed by a laser. In standard logic, Trito, of course, knows a trick called zombieing that will get him through, as we saw.
Hello.
Oh boy! Oh, Trojan just found in the clean water. The water vein. What a pickup.
Yeah, found it clueless as well. That is important. It is important, and getting excited is warranted. That said, I don't actually know if that's as big a deal as it appears to be. It's a wonderful find, especially because Trojan has plenty of verticality to get all the way over there. That said, Tritonite already has a lot of advantage, especially that glide find and an extra trees on his opponent. Tritonite is also making strong progress towards checking a lot of this left side stuff, and will eventually get that clue, at which point, when Tritonite gets the water vein swamp clue, going into the water is going to be a very easy choice, and it won't take Tritonite long to find it. That was a bit of a word salad. I think I made my point.
Yeah, I'd say the main difference here is just what areas they're checking right now. Trito is checking the left side. If he finds something like bash or dash here, that is absolutely huge for his race. But if Trojan can find something like that in the Ginso tree, that's not something that Trito will have for quite a while. So that would, in that case, be absolutely ginormous for Trojan's race.
Truly a colossal pickup. Tritonite got Feather out of the way. That's tree number 7. Is going to go float and check some of these lower pickups that you would think are in Valley, but actually they're classified as Sorrow. Remember that the Sunstone is in Sorrow, so this is a smart play. Tritonite looks like is going to float up and go straight into Sorrow, which makes sense. There's a tree up here, and we have to find that Sunstone. It is possible that the Sunstone is grenade locked, although statistically unlikely.
Yep. It would be absolutely hilarious if it was. At least for us as viewers, it would be hilarious. For our runners, that might be a sense of panic. They could go to Forlorn and grab the clue if they wanted, but again, that's still a pretty low probability play. As we are seeing Trito check what he can on the way up, will be heading straight for the tree and being thorough on the way, and then we'll see what he does on the way down to try and find that Sunstone. Or, possibly, save scumming everything on the side.
Yeah, again, very effective use of those. I want to point out Trojan had a little bit of trouble with one of those portal runes. Remember, Trojan doesn't have Feather yet and also doesn't have double jump, so he's lacking air stall. You can get through that with a damage boost, which, of course, Trojan did. It just took 1 or 2 attempts. Not too big a problem. Yeah,
Glide, as we know, is in the grenade area, which technically isn't in logic until our runners find Dash. So we'll see if Trojan decides to make a break for that, be thorough in the direction of trees like we've seen Tritonite doing, or if he'll decide to really stick to logic as he's been doing so far after he gets up the Ginso tree, seeing what there is to see.
Tritonite down to 1 health. That was pretty spooky. Sorrow Pass is a dangerous zone, even with Ultra Defense. Tritonite is alive and has plenty of energy to make saves. Tritonite hasn't found anything yet, not the Sunstone nor another skill. Trojan, over on the left, has similarly not found anything too impactful in Ginso yet. Trojan is going to have the option in just a moment to continue past the dash tree if he wants to. But, look at that. White text is boring pickups. Green and other colored texts are important. Tritonite found the Sunstone, Trojan found double jump.
Yep. I'd say that's very important for both runners, as it's great to have both, in terms of both comfort and in terms of what it lets them do. Double jump being a form of air stall, really, really good for Trojan at this point. And Trito, of course, with the Sunstone, that's a required pickup. He now doesn't need to search through Sorrow anymore. He just needs to get those trees and his water vein clue before he makes his way into the swamp and, of course, the Ginso tree, like we're seeing Trojan Dude right now, where he finds Stomp in logic.
This is really fascinating. Trojan is finding these powerful pickups, which normally might be enough to swing a seed. I don't think that's going to be true in this case, because Trojan knows where the water vein is. Of course, Tritonite doesn't. Trojan also knows that the Sunstone is up in Sorrow. We know where it is. What Trojan is probably hoping to find more than anything is Feather, and I'm guessing that he will find it on his way to the grenade tree, but he's not going to find it here.
Yep, he will back out of the Ginso tree before that final top keystone door. It does look like he has enough keystones to open it, but then those keystones would be gone, and, well, he probably wants them for the charge jump tree later, the one that we're seeing Trito get right now. That'll be his 8th tree. He's building up a very strong tree vantage, so even without Stomp and Double Jump, he's still got probably a decent lead, and we'll see what he does in terms of getting through Misty with his current skill set, and then what he'll do to find the water vein.
Yeah, at this point, I would say definitely advantage Tritonite by a reasonably large margin. Right now, the biggest advantage Trojan has is the Water Vein and having gotten all the way to the Bash tree. Trojan also has some additional skills, but importantly, those skills don't really make you move much faster. With Bash, they would let you do longer sequences of Bash glides, or with Dash, of course, you can just go fast in your own right. Oh, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out Tritonite, I think, was trying to do a fancy little charge jump trick where you can do a charge jump into a save anywhere and get a big burst of speed. It didn't work, but that's okay. Tritonite's just going to kind of slowly meander over to the left because he doesn't have movement options to go faster.
Yeah, those 4-letter pickups, Bash and Dash, are hiding from both of our runners right now. Those are the pickups that would really let them just zoom across these big, flat plains. But as neither runner has it, it's not really a disadvantage to walk like this, since Trito is able to just kind of constantly keep moving, fighting off the enemies with Charge Flame and with just jumping over them. Really nicely done to get through this early area of Misty with the amount of skills he has.
Yeah, one interesting nuance of the routing, generally speaking, it's good to do Misty at major tree thresholds like 6 or 9, which is exactly what Tritonite is doing. What that generally means is that unless you have your dungeon key clues already, you'll generally check everything within the first half of Misty, because it can be a pain to revisit. Tritonite did actually skip one early pickup, but it was so early that, I mean, of course we know that Water Vein isn't here, but from Tritonite's perspective, even if Water Vein was in Misty, it would be very fast to revisit. And I'm guessing that's exactly why Tritonite was comfortable skipping it. And also, he doesn't have an easy way to break it.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. The typical way you're supposed to is with Stomp, but you can bait that frog into breaking it. However, without Bash to maneuver that frog, it's really, really tight. So Trito knows that's possible, but is deciding, I'm not going to waste time on it now. I'd rather just check to see if there's anything actually there before heading out.
Yeah, over on the left, Trojan picked up that extra double jump pickup that we saw Tritonite get a lot earlier, and unlike Trito, Trojan can actually use it. So Trojan now has triple jump. He will be able to get up to quad jump. I don't think he's unlocked actual triple jump yet, but he has more than 2 jumps, which isn't going to be too impactful in this seed, but it never hurts to have.
Yep. We have seen both of our runners, I believe, building up the green, blue, teal, turquoise, whatever color you want to call it, tree. The one which has triple jump and, of course, ultra defense
tree
on it. Yeah, the top tree. Who needs colors anyway? And so that will probably be on Trojan's mind, as he's already a decent way up that tree. To get quad jump is just so nice to have, especially without glide, giving him almost more air stall in certain situations than glide would.
Yeah, over on the right, Tritonite getting that tree number 9 has the Water Vein Swamp clue. That means that Tritonite will not be continuing in Misty. He's going to back out immediately and head to Swamp. As for the route that Tritonite takes, checking Swamp pickups, well, we'll find out in just a moment. Remember that the Water Vein is deep within the swamp water.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a pretty dense area of pickups left for Trito, as he hasn't done any of the swamp swims yet. So that area is still completely full of unchecked areas, and that might be his first thought, as opposed to the outer swamp loop, which he's already looked into a little bit, and is therefore quite a bit less dense.
Yeah, Tritonite also doesn't have that swamp teleporter yet, so Tritonite might make a choice to head towards the... Well, he may go all the way to the teleporter, may go right in a moment and check some of these pickups. Yep, smart awareness to skip this cutscene is just going to jump right on over it. I wouldn't expect it to take Tritonite very long to reach that water.
No, not at all. But every second that he is searching is another second that Trojan has to try and catch up, as he is beelining now for the grenade tree. Again, this is out of logic without Dash, but runners like Trojan and Trito know how to get in, and this will not only provide Trojan with another tree, it will also provide him with that really helpful glide, if he's as thorough as he's shown himself to be. Yes, he's even checking more pickups that we haven't seen Trito check yet down here, avoiding...
Well, Tritonite wasn't able to check these once. He didn't have grenade, he didn't have double jump to get over. Maybe it's possible, but it would certainly be difficult.
I believe the laser ones, at least, are possible with what Trito had. The double jump one, of course, yeah, you're right. But you can duck under this laser, as we might see Trojan do here. Yep. And Trito should know that as well.
So, Tritonite, I thought was maybe going to go all the way around our Swamp Loop. I actually hadn't recalled whether he had already checked it, but as before, Tritonite has made very clever usages of his save scums during the seed, and has now made it to the water. It will not take Tritonite very long to check this. He set up some sort of save anywhere I'm actually kind of unfamiliar with. Is this a reverse Terra Break?
I believe so, yes. He was moving downwards as he placed that save anywhere. And when you die using Charge Jump, the state persists, and that will let him break this floor. Really, really clever knowledge from Trito. Oh, maybe place the save a little bit high in the air. It looks like he's actually going to try again. Yep. Because this pickup could be the Water Vein for all he knows, and without Stomp, there's really no other way to check this one.
Yeah, meanwhile on the left, nice little series of jumps by Trojan to get through that laser sequence, the little spinner. I think we saw both Trojan and Tritonite get that first try. Flipping back to the other side of the screen, and Tritonite did successfully do the reverse Terra Break. I have never seen it used in that spot. That's really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. With the amount of health Trito had, that was a pretty long Terra Break, so it's great that he got it even second try to let him check that pickup. Unfortunately, just 36 experience, but he will now be making his way down into the rest of the Swamp Swim, where we know that the Water Vein is just inside.
So at this point, Trojan has Glide. He also knows that he has to do left side trees, has the Valley Teleporter, and has that Sunstone Sorrow clue, which means that Trojan is going to be sitting pretty comfortably going to most of the left side. Looks like Trojan maybe toyed with the idea of turning around and going through the Death Gauntlet, but changed his mind. I would expect to probably see Trojan go ahead and start clearing left side, where Tritonite finds Water Vein, is also going to go ahead and, just dodging the Crushers, check that final pickup too, just for good measure.
Yep. And with that, Trito now has his Water Vein, of course, and that means he really only has to do Ginso, while Trojan has to do the entirety of left side in order to catch up. So this lead is definitely building for Trito. Trojan could still be very thorough, find Bash and Dash in quick succession, which would be absolutely ginormous and turn this entirely around. But it's a little bit unlikely at this point, as Trojan...
Even if he did, I think it's too little too late, unfortunately. Not that Trojan knows that, of course, especially because we've already seen so many Sorrow pickups checked by Tritonite, as well as a number of those pickups in the first half of Misty. It's not that there are no pickups available for Trojan where, as you said, Bash or Dash could be. It just seems probably very, very unlikely that he'll find them at this point.
Yeah,
but
this seed is just rewarded Trito for pushing trees as he has, and has just not given Trojan the out-of-the-way checks that he's been searching for. So his thoroughness has just not paid off this seed, and has allowed Trito to gain this lead by being aggressive, rushing trees, still checking things, of course, but he now has a 2-tree vantage, and the Water Vein, and the Sunstone. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do want to point out Trojan took Ultra Defense as well. It's kind of nice to see the double Ultra Defense play from both runners. Many runners in a similar situation, or just as a general kind of rule of preference, prefer to go for Sense. As we discussed, Tritonite had a pretty rough experience with Sense during his first bracket match, and so it seemed very unlikely he was going to go for it, and now, as we've seen, Trojan also decided to go for that Ultra Defense route instead.
Yeah, we especially don't see that very often in seeds without Dash. One of the primary functions of that top tree is to give our runners Air Dash and Charge Dash. So without that, a lot of runners do prefer Sense, but both of our runners today decide to go for Triple Jump and Ultra Defense, although Trito doesn't have the Double Jump yet. He might still grab it up here, depending on how thorough he's being, of course. But Ultra Defense is still very, very, very nice to have in any situation.
Yeah, Tritonite is doing a Charge Flame redirect on this projectile. That one may be good. Yes, just barely missing the lip. That redirect is somewhat precise. It took Tritonite just a few attempts to get it. Also one-cycled the mini-boss through a clever combination of Charge Flame damage and a Charge Jump, which by itself deals like half of the boss's health. So that's efficient tackling of that mini-boss for sure.
Yeah, Charge Jump being the last skill that you get in the vanilla game was definitely not intended to come here into these very early areas, do 50 damage to all these mini-bosses, and our runners will make great use of that. Trito especially in this very early Ginso area, as he does find his double jump, He has extra, and he has triple jump from the trees. That is quad jump for him. Super duper comfortable as he gets his final tree and will now be heading to the final escape.
Yeah, this escape should be a breeze for Tritonite at this point. Of course, the bash should be nice to have, but it's not something that Tritonite's going to need. Tritonite actually also performed a small glitch on that bash tree cutscene just to start moving during the bash tree cutscene a little bit. Make his way back to the teleport a little earlier, going back to Swamp. At this point, Tritonite is beelining for the finish line, and it seems unfortunately very unlikely that Trojan is going to be able to catch up.
Yes, absolutely. I will still say Trojan has put on a remarkable performance today, just making sure to check everything, just in case, being very thorough. It's a great strategy against upper runners like Tritonite, where the difference between winning and losing can often come down to just checking one out-of-the-way pickup. That didn't turn out to be the case today, however. So he will be searching for his 8th tree as Trito is coming through Horror Fields, has, I believe, yes, the exact same skill set. The only difference right now being that Trojan doesn't yet have the Sunstone or the trees that are required to end up the seed.
Well, Trojan has Stomp as well, but that, all things considered, is really not going to mean too much. Nice Sea Flame redirect on that Baneling by Tritonite to get through. Normally you would stomp that wall or bash the Baneling over, but Tritonite doesn't have either of those things. Remember that Stomp was in Upper Ginso, and at this point it didn't make any sense for Tritonite to continue.
Yeah, that's true. Stomp might be helpful in a couple of places, but with Trito's knowledge, as well as Sea Flame at his disposal, and Climb Charge Jump, this final escape is a breeze. There will still be a few tricky rooms without Bash, but Trito, being an expert at this run, will be able to make it through, I believe.
I'm sure he will. Let's see, let's check on our good friend Trojan Dude. Trojan just has 1 tree to go, which is going to be Charge Jump, but remember that Trojan also has to find the Sunstone of Sorrow. Nice. I believe that was the first try door warp. Did I say that correctly by Tritonite? Yeah. Nice first try door warp. 1 escape remaining between Tritonite and further advancement within the lower bracket.
Yeah, Trito's very much shown off why he is the #1 seed here. Just powering through this, making sure to check whatever he can on the way, still playing aggressive, and it pays off. He is now grabbing a bunch of experience from the bird at the very end. We'll see what he does, especially through these bash-heavy rooms, like the Lantern Room coming up, or the Elemental Room. Because without bash, these rooms are a little interesting. He's going to over the Lantern Room. Great choice. It completely despawns the bird, and as long as the laser doesn't snipe him, he will make it through. Now using Charge Flame to break these floors instead of Stomp or Climb Charge Jump. We'll take a damage boost through the floor. He has clean water for the swim. And after that, all that's left is the final room before he completes the seed.
Yeah, I may have underestimated the importance of double jump, because double jump, when actually triple and quad jump, made that Lantern Room relatively easy for Tritonite, where without it, it would have been quite a bit more difficult. I think it would have been possible, but more difficult. In either case, Tritonite is through. He does not have the skills for the final grenade jump, so has no choice but to go over to the right. That is a GG for Tritonite. Well played, will be advancing to his next match.
Yep. All he now has to do is just hold a single button for about a minute and a half. So a breath of fresh air for him after that pretty great execution seed. And we will see him moving on. He doesn't know that just yet. He will in about a minute and 30, as Trojan is now making his way towards his 10th tree. Not too far behind, but unfortunately far behind enough to eliminate him from this tournament.
Yeah, remember that the Sunstone is not up here, it's at one of the lower keystones. The good news is that with this being Trojan's last tree, once he acquires it, really the only thing left on his bucket list is going to be getting that Sunstone. Which means that he will almost certainly turn around. Maybe he'll go check the upper ability cell first, but otherwise he'll be going back down. So I imagine it won't take very long for Trojan to get over there. Nice usage of the Frog's projectile to break the floor as well.
Yeah. Although the frog did troll him a little bit there by breaking the floor. It looks like he was going to stomp it, but instead stomped straight into spikes. Luckily did have enough health to survive and make his way back to safe ground. Thank you for breaking the floor, Frog, but please don't send Trojan into spikes next time.
Yeah, well, anyway, over on the right, Nara walking to the right. That is a GG for Tritonite. I'm sure he'll be relieved. As we discussed, Tritonite is our #1 seed, a very formidable opponent, so I don't know that Trite Knight is maybe surprised to have won, but as we've seen in many tournament races, the outcomes of these races, even with pretty disparate seed numbers, is never predetermined.
Yeah,
So,
we've said it
yeah,
many
I'm sure
times.
Trite Knight will be,
There is no safe place in the brackets anymore. Everyone who's made it this far has shown incredible skill, and
I'm sorry
unfortunately-
I don't mean to interrupt. This particular wall, Trojan isn't making dumb mistakes. That wall throws you off of it if you climb up. That specific wall. That's why Trojan took a bunch of damage. I'm sorry, you were saying about the bracket.
yeah, we I believe have eliminated over half the bracket by this point already, possibly even over 2/3. And just everyone who's left is an incredibly phenomenal runner. And so Trito, even as the top seed, will still be facing many challenges as he continues his way up through lower bracket after this match.
Yes, sorry, I was distracted for a moment. Trojan is deciding to go up and check these pickups before heading back down, which is a reasonable choice. There are more pickups below, but coming back to these upper pickups takes longer if it's not here. It's the usual rando calculus of density versus time it takes to get there, etc. Trojan's also going to open up a save anywhere to skip the Sunstone cutscene. The Sunstone pickup itself is one that we very rarely see in randomizer seeds. This is pretty out of the way.
Yep. Although Vanilla Sunstone would be an absolutely hilarious find for Trojan. We know it's not there. He'll just be grabbing whatever it happens to be. It looked like it was just experience, so not too helpful, but it is one less pickup that he has to check, as he will be making his way back down towards lower Sorrow to find where we know the Sunstone to be.
Yes, it shouldn't take Trojan too much longer. The good news is that with Feather, clearing this is very easy. I think Trojan could have gotten to most, maybe all of these pickups without Feather, but it would have been significantly more difficult. Right now, Trojan is trying to jump up here. This is possible to make this jump. There we go. It's possible with triple jump, excuse me. With quad jump, it's even easier. Taking an intentional death to save scum back up to the top. Maybe that save scum took Trojan slightly further than he wanted, but it's only going to be a few seconds to get back down.
Yeah, we are again just being shown off how really nice it is to have so many jumps in the air. Just letting him get extra verticality, extra momentum, being able to check stuff that's a little bit out of logic without something like Bash to power his way up there. And he will now be making his way into the left side of Sorrow, grabbing every pickup along the way, where we know he will find the Water Vein. Not the Water Vein, the Sunstone soon enough.
Yeah, you know, Water Vein, Sunstone, they're both keys. Is there really any difference?
You're right, there's not. The Gumon Seal is also equal, as we know.
There's the Sunstone for Trojan. Not going to bother continuing the rest because why bother? At this point, Trojan is in virtually an identical position to Trite Knight as far as clearing out the final escape. I don't know for sure whether they had identical amounts of health, but both runners with Ultra Defense, both with all of these skills. Trojan, as before, has Stomp that Trite Knight did not, but Stomp is not going to make much of a difference in how Trojan is able to execute the final escape. I also, as a side note, I want to point out, this is really interesting, not long before the race, Trojan was actually asking a question about whether it's possible to clear the final escape with a particular skill set, and it wasn't this exact skill set, but I might be wrong about this, so Trojan, if you watch it back, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I'm not certain that Trojan was actually aware of the strat that we saw Trite Knight use, where you kind of despawn Kuro and jump over the spikes, prior to like 10 minutes before the race or something, which is what he's probably going to end up using to clear the escape.
Yeah, without Bash, that Lantern Room is nigh impossible. Bottom, while there's a timer ticking down, a bird chasing you, fire everywhere, a laser pillar that instantly kills you. So that top route is much more handy-dandy for a runner without Bash, which is a position that Trojan is now finding himself in. It'll be great to see if he can execute that new strat to him, making it over pretty nicely, having a safety spike, and using charge jump and glide and quad like we saw Trito do earlier to just float on over that room.
Yeah, well, with that, Trojan has made it to Horu. We saw Trite Knight get a very clean first try door warp. Trojan is going to have the option of doing door warp or taking out the mini boss. He's going to go for door warp. I do want to confirm, by the way, that Trojan is aware that he's lost. Many runners, myself included, will frequently choose to not watch the race window. But Trojan knows. I think that's good sportsmanship to go check the validation XP. To clarify, it has nothing actually to do with validation. We just call it the validation XP because it's a fun meme.
Yeah, the memes are always great to see. And Trojan, having known he's lost, is just having fun at this point now. Still has a great time on his hands. He's just finishing out this seed with a little bit of flair. Grabbing that. Maybe we'll see some other memes like Naru Hops at the very bitter end. But he is now coming into his final escape. A dangerous area, but he will take it in stride and make his way through.
Yeah, really the only challenging part of this escape is going to be this. Looks like Trojan is going to go through. Trite Knight destroyed the barrier to despawn Kuro before turning around. Trojan is going to do something else. At this point, the clock is ticking, and Kuro is getting closer, did get singed. That's another threat in that room. It can be very difficult to manage the cycle timer of that pillar of lava.
Yep, even for all the health and ultra defense he has, there is nothing in this game that can stop an instant kill. Aside from possibly a zombie, but those are, I believe, not able to be pulled off in this final escape, just as maybe another trick. Oh, the laser's coming back.
Has to wait.
He does manage to avoid it. Oh my god!
Yep. Yep, that was the risk, is you dodge it once, but then you have to do a climb charge jump. Good job getting through there. Trojan is going to have to damage boost this. There's the damage boost. Queues up to the charge jump, able to jump out of the fire. Trojan has clean water just like his opponent had, which means that getting through here will be easy. Is also going to be able to charge flame the fish to get them out of the way. And with that upgraded charge flame will actually one-shot them. Just one room remaining.
Yep. There's still a kill plane. Trojan definitely skips that. It's a horrible thing to feel when you accidentally spawn Kuro at the very last second. But he is up, charge jumping off this wall, will hit the trigger to start the cutscenes to end the game. About a minute and a half remaining for him to just breathe, hold right, and maybe show us a meme or two, if he's feeling up for it.
Well, GG to Trojan. Unfortunately, with this loss, he will be out of the tournament. But I still think it's safe to say that he played very cleanly. As we discussed, both runners were thorough, but they were thorough in different ways. And in this seed, Trite Knight was rewarded for that, where Trojan took more time than he probably would have wanted to, checking some other, not out of logic, but kind of out of the way pickups.
Yeah. While we don't have Trite Knight on for an interview, he said he is very sleepy after that race. We did get a few comments from him, including that he said he was being very thorough on purpose, specifically because he knew Trojan was also going to be very thorough. And Trito just really wanted to make sure that he didn't miss that one important pickup, which in this case, it turns out he didn't miss anything important, and that let him secure his victory.
Yeah, it's some kind of what we discussed at the start of the race. If you know that you generally have a routing and execution advantage, you can afford the time loss of checking some pickups that in a very aggressive playstyle you might skip. Certainly paid off for Trojan. For Trite Knight, there's a GG for Trojan coming in with a final time that is, what is that, about 8.5 minutes-ish behind Trite Knight?
Yep. Up against the number one seed, I hope Trojan is still feeling pretty good about his performance. We saw some great stuff, potentially learning a new route through the final on the fly today, and even with his little bit of time wasted on checks, still managed to get through the seed with a pretty minimal skill set and a very respectable time.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, today Trite Knight declined the interview. We will see if Trojan wants to hop in. It's always up to runner discretion. So we'll just hang out, all enjoy each other's company for a moment while Trojan takes a breath after a 54-minute Ori Rando race. And then we'll there's Trojan in on deck, so let me do my little Discord magic. Hello, Trojan dude. How are you? Maybe I pulled you in a little too aggressively. Well, I will just say GG on your race. Obviously, I have some questions for you. Just want to make sure that mics are all functional and all that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, hello guys.
Welcome, Trojan. GG, how are you feeling about that race?
I actually honestly felt like I played pretty well. Even though I lost, I actually felt like I executed and routed pretty well, in my opinion, for like what I knew, like when I ran across stuff, like adjusting my routing properly.
Yeah, well, on that topic, the first question I'll ask you is, do you feel like you changed your playstyle knowing that you were going up against the #1 seed, or was it business as usual?
No, I'd say it was mostly pretty much business as usual. But I was trying to knock out trees as soon as I had access to them, which is a little different than what I did in some of the other races, just because I knew Trident was going to be a little bit more on the aggressive side.
Sure, very reasonable. One more quick one I'll ask, and then I'll toss to you, Turtle, if you like. I said during the race that Trojan, like prior to this race, you had asked a question about like the final escape with certain skill sets. I might be totally off base here, but was that final escape comfortable for you, or was it something that you had to kind of pick up fresh?
That was something I was gonna pick up fresh, and I wasn't gonna do if I ran across that. So definitely not without practice. That seems very particular.
Well, yeah,
I'm
you
glad
actually,
you know it.
yeah, a very clean execution on that second run through, getting over. Congratulations. Something that I'd like to ask is, we saw you following logic pretty closely for most of the early game. At what point do you think you decided to just head straight into something like Grenade Tree without dash, as opposed to following logic very strictly?
Well, I knew that I could like get over there pretty early, but I didn't want to go that far out of... I didn't want to do that too early. Like, I knew I could clear the Stomp Tree, and then when I found that Water Vein pickup, I knew I wanted to do that first. So, like, that's why I kept pushing off going over into that. I definitely could have done it a lot earlier than I did.
All right, interesting. We also did see you grab some pretty out-of-the-way pickups, stuff that you maybe have even used in the past, like the Grove Long Swim at the the Glades Long Swim at the very beginning. Do you have a particular favorite pickup that you like to check, such as that has often rewarded you?
Well, so just for a clarity on that specific thing I did really early on in the seed, in the previous singles, I think it was the previous singles randomizer tournament, I actually won a match against Vula because I checked that right away and it was Bash. So I was kind of hoping for a similar thing doing that play. But I just knew I had enough health of that mega health to go check that. But like favorite pickups in general, I would say probably like I really like checking the like right above the grotto teleporter stuff, and then I also really like going to that last room before the Ginso mini boss, like at the top of the tree. I feel like I've just come across stuff there like so often that was useful.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear and to think about. But Grim, back to you if you have anything else to end off with.
Yeah, my final question is, with this loss, you are unfortunately knocked out of the tournament since this was a lower bracket match. What, if any, are your future plans with Ori and or speedrunning in general?
Well, as far as Ori's concerned, I'm always down to participate in tournaments, whether it be a randomizer tournament, singles or doubles. You know, I love doing the doubles tournament stuff with, you know, my wife Rue, and it's a lot of fun. And I don't know if there's another all skills tournament, maybe I'll come out of retirement, but I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. But other speedrunning, like after the next like couple months, I definitely plan on trying some other stuff. I want to get back into trying some Doom 2016 speedrunning. I was starting to learn it a bit before life got really busy. And then I'll come across some other games and see if any tickle my fancy.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you for the answer, and great race and great tournament.
Thank you, appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, Turtle, what do we have next on the docket for Ori?
Yeah, we do have another match coming up in a little less than 2 hours. That will be on SpeedGaming 3, the same channel. That will be Evo versus Zemsys. A great matchup coming up, and commentated by Liftoff and Shape. So if you are able to, stay tuned for that amazing match. We also, on Tuesday, September 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern, have Dedu versus Fluffy Prower. And Wednesday, September 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern, have Sirius versus Fupio. We don't know what channels those will be on yet, so stay tuned to the Speed Gaming calendar for more Ori in the future.
Yeah, for this match, thank you to Infant and Romulus on the tracking side of things, and Apple is our restreamer, and of course Turtle as my co-commentator. That was a fun one.
And thank you, too, for helping Grim.
Cool. We will see you all in about 2 hours for more Ori. See ya.